Yo,
Hey, Matt, how are you?
good. How are you?
Weren't sure if you were still on beach time or not.
No, I'm on inland time.
Right on, right on. How was the vacation?
It was good. It was not too hot. It was just we got the little bit of breeze and overcast and in the like mid to high 80s. It was perfect. Not like this week.
How was So the big question is how was real estate down there? Did you check it out? I know you can't go there without looking at real estate.
There's a place that was right across the street. We were like on the water, but there was a marsh between us and the beach. And there was a house that was it looked like it was relatively new, um, beachfront, but it was kind of facing sideways, and it was 1,200,000. And I thought, the crap that's for sale around our town here that's $900,000 versus 1,200,000 for beachfront property. I thought it was a deal.
Did you buy it?
Hell no.
I'm just giving you a hard time. So,
I'll rent
um,
it, but I'm not going to buy it.
yeah, what is rent? Are those rents? I was over in Western Michigan at a wedding this weekend, and I had never traveled up the west coast of Michigan to those beach towns, and it's amazing to me the real estate prices and what people are paying for those
It's
houses.
10 grand a week.
Yeah, I just don't want to do all the maintenance, right? So,
I'd rather pay 10 grand. Actually, my wife and I went to the mountains. I think I told you this during the winter. We paid $10,000 for a month to be in a 5,000 square foot house in the mountains of North Carolina. And I would do that once a year rather than own something you got to pay. And that house was a $3 million house. I thought, like, there's no way I want the headache of the maintenance and especially at the beach, the insurance. I bet the insurance on a beach house is 10 grand a year.
yeah, yeah, for sure, just because of the potential hurricanes and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, they're coming too.
No doubt. We're just filling up the queue here, getting some people in to start it. But welcome to this our lunch with Lumbermen with Matt Lehman, Lehman's Lumber Guide. Matt, I went through the briefing today, but one thing I wanted to talk to you about, if we could bring up the so monthly new residential construction came out today, and one of the big things, Matt, the starts to completions just came in all of a
Yeah,
sudden.
yeah, and it's
So
not.
look,
It's gonna be 1,500,000. I'm telling you, that's where it's gonna end up.
so look at that. I mean, you and I have been talking about that line for months and months and months and months, heck, since 2020 and 21, and finally, uh, we adjust. So completions adjusted to an annual rate of 1.465 million. That's 9.1% above the April revise. That's a big move. So we had what we've been talking about here. Permits came down, completions came up. So we're finally, because of a lot of reasons that just make absolute sense, is you can't just keep opening up potential new business without completing what you currently have. Now, homes under construction is still pretty high, but look at it's in, right? I mean, any thoughts on that, Matt? And any thoughts on the permits and in starts in general?
Yeah, I think that just really simplifies and makes it very clear what housing is going to do the rest of the year. Just as this was so simple to see from the beginning of the year when we looked at completions were at a rate of 1,200,000, permits and starts were at a rate of 1,700,000, 1,800,000, and you just said that's just not possible. It just doesn't work. And the builders were telling us that they were going to spend the first quarter of the year on starts and the last 3 quarters of the years on completions, and they're doing exactly what they said. And it didn't take a rocket scientist to say, well, if you're doing that, then you're going to consume less lumber. The lumber market's going to get soft. Starts are going to go down. Completions are going to go up. And that's just from one comment. The builders in general saying, "There's what we're going to do." And I'd like to pose this. I'd like to use this time as like an audience participation, and let's see if you guys that are listening, can figure out on your own what you think is going to happen in Q4 of this year based on what we know about the housing market today. And I'm going to give you what I think I know is pertinent, and you tell me what you think is going to happen.
Do you want to, do you want them to say how many, where we think we're going to end Q4 as far as permits or starts, or what's the question we're looking, the simple question?
Well, just what do you think the housing market's going to be like? Like we said, we realized that lumber demand was going to fall off, and there was going to be more homes on the market because of completions, and that's happening. So with this scenario in place, and with the new information we have, the way the housing markets, the information we have today, the primary driver for housing in Q4 or the rest of this year is going to be build to rent. There's no doubt about it. The invitation homes, D.R. Horton, Lennar are talking about selling packages of homes of 750, 1,700, 1,500 units at a time to build to rent people. So the new American dream is instead of a house that's got a pool and a backyard for his fence for the dog. The new American dream is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home that's rental, that has a community center with a pool and a playground and includes yard maintenance. It's basically a 3-bedroom standalone apartment with all the same amenities. But we know that there's going to be a surge in build to rent purchasing in Q4. Now the question is, if that's going to happen, is it going to require more building, or is there going to be plenty of these completed homes that are going to be able to get sold to those build to rent buyers? And is that going to take away the splurge of extra homes that could possibly be on the market?
Yeah, Kyle just brought a good point up. I'm looking at a delayed feed on my LinkedIn here. Starts and permits will adjust 25 to 30% until affordability gets back in line from the peak. Yeah, I think we're that's a good point, Kyle. The one other thing we need to talk about too is this is just new residential construction. The most lumber is consumed in repair and remodel, right? So we'll pop off of this and go up to your layman's lumber guide briefing to talk about that. And one of the big users of that are home centers who buy a lot of treated lumber. So since repair and remodel uses the most lumber, how is that being affected? You think, Matt? I mean, well, you've been saying for probably 4 months now, before anybody else was even saying this, that the home center business would slow. Hell, even in their Q3 or Q2 things, they're still optimistic on business going forward. But the inventory outtake that I'm seeing, or what they're consuming coming from the mills and their sellers, isn't saying that, right?
No, and I was looking at the caption that Jory sent out about the fear of the fear of running out of wood and needing wood is superseding the fear of the market falling off, and that's actually backwards of what I was trying to relay. And I think the fear that the market's going to come off is stronger than the need to buy lumber, and that's why we just keep going week after week. And everybody says, "Well, I mean, we've been talking about it. People have been talking about this thing since Memorial Day, that the market's underbought and people need to buy. They're going to be buying this week. They got to be buying this week. They got to be buying this week, and they're not coming." They're buying enough to fill in. They're taking care of jobs that they have that are immediately on the forefront that need to be taken care of or shipped in the next 30 days. But I can tell you, without exception, everybody that I've talked to that's got 60 and 90-day wood to buy is not buying it. Yeah, well, they got 60 and 90-day orders.
Let's just talk about the psychology of markets, Matt. And for 2 years, buyers. The two things move a market: greed and fear, right? Yeah. And for 2 years, buyers had fear. The other side, and rightfully so, right, had greed, right? That's just greed and fear. And
yeah, and it's important to identify what that fear was. What was that? That fear was of not having supply.
Not having supply in lumber. And that was and that came during a time of demand increasing, logistics decreasing, and all of a sudden, I would say it was. I'm going back 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I will say the psychology of buyers completely changed, and it will take. That's like trying to turn a fully loaded semi around on an ice road going 60 miles an hour at this
But it
point.
was predictable, Ash. It was predictable. They do it every May.
Absolutely, absolutely,
Every
absolutely.
single May, they start in April thinking like this is going to be the big hurrah, and they buy for that, and then May gets there, and they go like, I'm not saying business is bad. I'm just saying I've bought all I need to have, and they quit buying, and everybody turns bearish on the market because they've got a bunch of wood they need to sell, and they are selling it. This still the outtake is still there, but if you look beyond May and June, the expectations for the rest of this year are not bullish. There's no
Well,
people don't want to buy extra wood. They want to buy what they've got covered, but they're willing to gamble that 60, 90-day orders that they've got, they haven't bought yet, that they're going to be able to buy it, at these prices or lower.
well, a couple things I see. So, and let's pull up your 12-month forecast of your FDPs real quick, and we'll talk about this. A lot of people on social media, I see it on LinkedIn and Twitter, are saying that, hey, isn't this normal this time of year for people not to buy and things will come back? And these are people that aren't buying and selling lumber every day, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's normal, but it's not normal for what we've had economically in our country to happen like it just did and what we just went through the last 2 years. So, I think we're going to reset, have a new normal. I'm in purchasing, and what I'm seeing now, talking to buyers all across the nation, especially the ones that are part of these larger companies now that have been, put underneath these big umbrellas. They're getting marching orders from the C-suite now, right? Don't buy, transfer inventory. So at some point, we will get oversold. Hell, if we're not already, right? And people will have to make some kind of buy. And let's go to this 12-month forecast, and we're kind of going into where you say the summer bump. Here's what's known going into the summer. Everybody knows there's summer shutdowns in Eastern Canada. Guess what? They all run their planers.
They do. They don't stop. They don't stop putting out wood.
So anybody that's telling you that you need to buy because of summer shutdowns, they still run their planers, right? Everybody says $600 is the cost of production. I don't know if it is or if it's lower than that, or is it?
Doesn't make a bit of difference.
It doesn't make a bit of difference. It's just an imaginary number that I've been in this business long enough where it can trade below cost of production a lot longer than we see. And as Greg Riley said yesterday, we've basically, people have made, $500 million, $1 billion quarter over quarter, put money in the bank, save some stuff for these big companies. It takes a lot for them to make substantial shutdowns.
Well, then you think got to consider also, Ash, that the cost to own that business doesn't go away just because you shut it down. You still have the capital expenditure of the land, the taxes, the insurance, the payroll, the benefits, the equipment that you own. You still have to pay for that.
Yeah.
And it's just because you say, well, I'm going to make less lumber. Well, that's going to do is just raise your unit cost higher to have to make your payments.
But with that completions and starts coming into line, that makes me feel a little bit better about how we can get stuff moving a little bit better. So that made me happy to see that today, right? So let's talk a little bit about your FDPs, Matt. So we're kind of coming up here, a little bit of a bump yesterday. I'd say some mills traded off their real trade price, which were low numbers last 2 days, may have firmed up on some things, right? So
yeah, and here's the thing to be careful about is firming. Firming's just not wiping your butt from having so much crap on the yard that you just overload it. You just get to the point, well, I don't have to take $50 and $100 counters anymore. So is that firm, or is that just getting rid of some problems? So
it takes the squishiness out, right? So, but if you look at some things, look at 2x6 Southern Pine was trading in 4 digits a month and a half ago, and it's now trying to catch a bid, right? I saw here on your on your Southern Yellow Pine, sales pace of Southern Yellow Pine, I liked what you said here, had quickened to a slow trot, right? So what I noticed yesterday were the 2x6, the deep counters came out of it, and the 2x4, which is more used in trusses and other applications, got a little trot to it maybe, right?
Right. But it's certainly not a sprint.
Yep. Kyle brought up a question here. Will tightening spread between starts and completions provide enough liquidity to support softening supply as we move into the second half? Great question, Kyle. I mean, I think it's bullish actually tightening up that that supply because it cleans up the mess. Does that make sense? I mean, what do you think of that, Matt?
Yeah, and I think to go back to the where's the impetus for new construction going to come from? It's going to be this. It's going to be. I think the wild card is still the build to rent. Like, are we going to have this? There's going to be an increase of new homes completions. We're going to see we've already seen like completions going up to 1.5 million and starts down to 1.5 million. So that's coming into equilibrium. So does that mean we're going to have extra homes for sale? You know, with interest rates doubled in just this year. I saw a number yesterday that 11 million people have now been disqualified from purchasing homes of $400,000 homes. Are there 11 million people even looking for homes to buy? You know, I'd say that there's, you know, in the new home and existing home market, maybe 11 million people would like to buy, but we just wiped out the buy side of the market's just been completely obliterated. So the only real buyers left this market are going to be the build to rent corporations and new companies that come on like VC money and people that are already large investors or owners of build to rent properties. Are they going to be able to scarf up all this extra product? And is it going to either way? To me, either way you look at it, there's not going to be a need for an increased new production in housing starts because there's going to be either these completions that are coming on the market that are going to be eaten up by build to rent, or the build to rent's just going to, if the build to rent starts to build more, then we're going to have these completions that are just sitting on the market to buy. So I'm kind of inclined to believe that that the build to rent section is going to take up the overage that we create in the completions, and we're really going to have just kind of a wash in housing. We're not going to have a big flush out of housing, and probably not a big washout of housing prices, because if there's a big pool of build to rent buyers waiting there just to buy them, and they can pay $400,000 for or the price that's being asked for them now and rent them for $2,700, then they're just going to eat them up.
Yeah. I don't know how significant the rent the big corporations are buying. They were a small percentage for a long time, but maybe they've got enough of a war chest, and they were meaningful. But I just fall back to the people that get disqualified, and I agree with you. That $11 million number is a headline number. That's like saying, you know, what's the available amount of houses for sale? Well, everybody's is for sale at a price, right?
Right.
Right. So I'm kind of in the thing is, you know, the housing market's doing what the Fed wanted to do, slow down. I mean,
I saw another statistic that said that 90% of all mortgages are now under 5%. So people are losing their incentive to buy a house for 2% or 2.75% to trade up. It's just, so we're just gonna get stuck.
Yeah, and I was also reading. I know this was an interesting. I'm kind of going off on a thing where a lot of parents and all that, and a lot of these mid-size houses they're loaning their kids money and all that. And a lot of these deals are cash deals now on a lot of these houses. So there's a lot of cash washing around in our country still, right?
It sure is. And I'll tell you what. You listen to I was listening to the guys on CNBC talking about the little guys are feeling the pinch of inflation. Well, the little guys, unless the little guys are eating in smaller places than I'm eating and doing smaller things than I'm doing, the economy is not slowing as far as consumption goes. It may be slowing as far as profits are going from corporations, but restaurants are still full. The roads are packed. Vacation places are full. people are not. I think the U.S. is in a position to absorb a recession.
I got to show you this, Matt. So you see that picture right there?
Yeah, the crane.
That's a crane in the suburb just south of where I live, in a small, sleepy suburb, building a huge multifamily right next to a multifamily. And these are all kids moving from the city. A buddy of mine just in the office yesterday, his daughter and son-in-law and their friends want to buy a house and move from Chicago up to the suburbs, right? So everything's turning over in our neighborhood. And I went out last night to go to the grocery store, and there's 3 restaurants in town with outside decks. I couldn't find a parking lot to park to go into the grocery store. If you would ask me if there was a recession or a slowdown in my neighborhood, I'd say exactly the opposite, right?
It doesn't look like it. Was it you telling me that in Chicago they've got a line? No, I think it was Sharon Woodcock was telling me there's a line item on restaurant bills now. It's a surcharge for tips for the wait staff. They're adding another 10% because the people are cutting back on their tips because the price of their bills are high. So they're building in another 10% of your bill just for tips to make sure that the wait staff gets properly.
That could be. I always tip good, man. I always leave 20% or more. Because I don't want to go back and especially the places I go to all the time.
The place that I have a problem though is I have a problem leaving a 20% tip on a takeout order.
Yeah, that's a big question, right? I do.
Because there's more and more of that.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. So, but where there is inflation, my wife and I got some Thai food the other day, and we got 3 little dishes that came in a bag about this big, and it was with the tip and the delivery charge. And this is why I don't do it. It was $75.
No kidding. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good though. But
yeah, it better be.
Real quick,
better be good for $75.
Let's just. I really think this is important to go through because I love going through your lumber market conditions for your different species. Southern pine makes sense. It was the most undervalued, except especially 2x6. And I kind of keep a record of all the different lengths and widths and grades and all that, so you can look at relative to the hedge and all that. So 2x6 was really undervalued. And pine in general was undervalued, but it led the charge down, right? It was the first canary in the coal mine that sold off, right? Anything you've got to say about Southern pine coming off at all?
Yeah, it may have come off, and it may be getting near a point of having some more interest, but there's nothing on the page that says. I mean, if you look at where we are, we're almost beginning of July. We've got 2 months left before school starts, and it seems like school just got out. But people that are going to do a project have probably already planned to do their project, and they're not going to just all of a sudden show up because there's no disruption in working in the market that's going to go, oh crap, now we're stuck at home again. Let's add on to the deck. Those things have been done. The repair and remodel is probably going to be good because people are going to want to stay in their homes with interest rates higher than they thought they were going to get to. So we're probably going to see a big surge, I think, in repair and remodel, just in room additions and fixing things up a little bit. People staying pat in the houses they've got at 5% or less mortgage, refis, and that's probably the big push we're going to see in the fourth quarter. But all in all, I think that we're overdoing these things at the downside. It just people are just so fearful that there's just not going to be anything left, and we're going to have this huge big depression-like recession, and everybody's looking at housing to be some kind of barometer for making it better, or is it going to get worse? Is it going to get better? Whichever it is, but it's not going to zero. We still have a pent-up demand for 1.5 million or more new homes, and you cut the price of homes by 25-30%. And a guy told me today, he said that he was talking to a builder buddy. He said that they've been in the business for 40 years and never before this year have they had so much profitability on a home. And I said, well, if you think about it, everybody's got another 20 grand worth of profit in their house just from lumber prices falling.
Yeah. My cousin runs a framing crew here in Northern Illinois, and I saw he was on LinkedIn looking for more framers that he'll even train them, right? Because he's got so much business going forward to building houses. So I was over the last few months, I was looking for a reason to get really bearish on housing, but I'm kind of starting to see some things that we slow down, but things are still going to be pretty decent. I think.
Yeah.
Bet you got to bet on America, right?
Yeah, and everybody that wanted to buy a house 6 months ago, just the only reason they're not wanting to buy a house is just interest rates, and the cost to own it's going to be higher. So it's just a price thing. You bring it down, 15-20%, and we're right back where we were again, ready to go.
So spruce in eastern Western Canada. I mean, Western Canada, it's kind of hard to keep an eye on that because there's only about 3 big producers out there. I'm not sure exactly what that did. It looks like it's adjusting and trading. Eastern Canada, talked to some traders yesterday. Some mills were firm. I was talking to a guy. He said he was bidding on one car 2 days ago, and the guy came back and said, "We're firm." Went to another mill, and they took $65 off of what the other mill said they were firm at. So he also made the point too that look at traders for the last 2 years were trying to make $40, $50, $100 on a carload of lumber. It wasn't worth their time to do it per thousand, which is $10,000 a car at $100 a thousand. That's the profit they were looking to put in back-to-back trucks and cars. And now things are getting more realistic where you flip a car for $10, $15, $20 a thousand. So we're kind of getting back to normal, right? And we talked about that. OSB is the one thing I saw a lot of play in. We traded probably 20 trucks in the last 2 days of just 7/16 OSB, anywhere from $400 to $500 per thousand square feet delivered pretty much all over North America, right? And I read your thing. It's OSB. It's been a while since I've heard this. OSB is my problem. You put in quotes. There's too much of it. I cannot get rid of it fast enough. That was one of the things you had in the OSB, and I don't know enough about it, but it seems like it's still tight in the West. But we're seeing as people are pulling it from the East and the ports going into that whole area in the West to make up for that. If that makes sense.
Yeah, there's plenty of it to go around. It's just like, you remember last year when you shipped that truck from New Jersey to Oklahoma, I think.
New Jersey, all the way to Salt Lake City, Utah, too, right? Multiple.
Yeah, that was.
All over Utah and Arizona, right?
Yeah. So we've established that there's no boundaries, no limits to where this stuff can go. So if it's in the southeast and it's short in the west, it's going to go there.
Right. And I mean, that's a great thing to say, why to use materials exchange, right? We try to break down the boundaries put in place by people's current relationships, which are great to keep, or contracts that try to keep people in a certain area and not going outside of it, right? So when you open up a market and you break down the boundaries, everybody wins in that one.
Yeah, I think the cool thing about what you guys do is that when you put an order in or a bid in, you immediately take down the box that you think you're in. There's no barriers to where you just like, wow, that truck can't, and people don't even know, like, truck driver pulls up from 800 miles away and you go, how in the world did that happen? You don't really care. You just.
Well, the one guy in Utah, when I said I was shipping him wood all the way from Alabama, he was quiet for a few minutes and just said, I can't believe that. That's exactly what he said, right? Because he was told that his contracts were canceled because of, or were getting lessened because of supply issues, and he was smart enough to go out and find out a way to change that, right?
Yeah. So, speaking of trucking, that's a logistics thing that I don't know what you guys are finding, but I'm still hearing a lot of people that are complaining about trucks, and it could be that if you're in a spot where there's not a good backhaul for a trucker from your location, you may have some problems still getting trucks, still some logistic things. The prompt wood is still taking.
Can I get on my soapbox here just for a second? And I rarely complain.
Absolutely.
Here's my problem with trucking. I love American truckers. Here's what I can't stand on the brokerage side of the trucking community. When I book a truck with you multiple times, don't tell me it's shipped with all this technology that you have, and then tell me a week later it didn't show up. I hear that over and over and over. And this new thing where they tender loads, where it's a promise to maybe pick it up at a price if they can find a truck and not find one better. I have to tell you, with all this technology in trucking, and if anybody out there is listening, if you're truckers and you have a better solution for me, some of the people that we currently use do not perform under the real simple standards that we have, and it's really becoming frustrating. If you have all this technology and 100 people sitting on your trading floor trading trucks, do what you say you're going to do when you're going to say you're going to do it, or don't do business with me. That's it. I'm off my soapbox.
Yeah, and is it the broker or is it the trucker that says, "Nah, I just don't feel like riding to Florida this week"?
It doesn't matter to me. If you've committed to something and you're the broker that's doing it through a truck or a trucker, do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. That's all I ask in life of anybody that I work with or do business with. That's it.
Somebody was asking me yesterday how the trucking business works, and I said it's still dominated by brokers. I mean, that's why there's the boards are up in truck stops. People come by, they go like, "Well, I'm in Smithfield, North Carolina, and I just dropped a load off, and I need to get back to Ohio." So they just get on the computer and say, "Well, what have I got that's close by?" And they go, "Well, my closest pickup is 200 miles away, and it's $6 a gallon. I'm not going to drive 200 miles deadhead to go pick it up." So they just wait and say no.
Here's an interesting thing on those load boards. On those load boards, if you have 10 trucks to go from point A to point B and you tell 7 brokers and they post it on those load boards, it looks like there's 100.
Yeah,
right?
And
so all of a sudden that rate gets dropped.
If it sits there for 2 hours and doesn't get picked up, it gets reposted, so it moves to the top of the load board again.
Right. Steve Harms was saying, general manager at Trustway Manufacturing, trucking seems to be readily available. We are contacted by several companies weekly looking for business. Yes, Stephen, I think what I'm talking about, so regional, when a trucker can do a load overnight, and maybe this is what you're talking about, and stay in their general area. When I have a load, though, that needs to go from Florida to Nebraska, that's a 2 or 3 day haul. The longer hauls, I'm having a hard time getting commitments to stick with people and people not canceling them. Local hauls, where people can go home at night, and we call that the Amazon effect. Riley always says that because Amazon's put enough pressure on people with paying so much to truckers to get back home overnight, and a lot of these logistical companies, that it's really causing inflation and uncertainty, in my own opinion, in the long haul trucking market.
Yeah. It is. Right, I've noticed something lately too. The Amazon delivers in my neighborhood are coming in sedans with pop-up trunks. They're in Hondas and Buicks. They're not in trucks. They've got so many people that they could put on a payroll. They could just fill up a trunk load of stuff and ride for 20 miles and dump it all out. They're able to supplement that shortage of truckers just with people that got a Suburban or just a little sedan car.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, listen, Matt, we're up against a half an hour. I appreciate it. I apologize on my soapbox there, but that's what I noticed in trucking. So we're going to do this again next week. Please subscribe to Matt's Layman's Lumber Guide. And Matt, like he said, he sends the one page out, the briefing, I believe, for free now, right, Matt? Am I wrong?
Actually, we're just getting that straight. We're going to call that the scouting report. It's going to be we got a name for it. It's going to be separate, but it's going to be that one page there. And we're just getting our web page up for people to be able to sign up to get that for free. And we should have that up here in the next couple of days.
I want to put out just a little statement. If you're on this call, in this video call, and I get calls from people. So between our call last week, Matt, we're on 2 or 3 Twitter streams, 3 LinkedIn streams, Twitch, which I don't even have any idea what that is, but I guess the younger people like it, and 3 YouTube streams. We had over 2,000 people view this last week. Wow. Right? Now, some of them may be sitting in a country a million miles away from here and not understanding what we're talking about. Many may, right? But the point is, if you like this content, we're like PBS in this one. It comes at a cost of our time. We need you to log in to Materials Exchange, mx.com, and register if you haven't, or use us. I mean, I see people up here every day that use it, that call me and say they like it. When I was up in Montreal, people I didn't even know walked up and said, "Hey, great show." But when I ask them to post bids or offers, they're like, yeah, my company doesn't want to do that. It's like, look at this. This is a package deal. If we don't do that, I disappear at some point here.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like, we know a lot more than we're telling you too. So if you want some more, there's more that MX has to offer and more that Layman's Guide has to offer than what we just this is teaser copy. It's like we're gonna sing a couple of songs by Michael Bublé, but we really want you to buy the album when it's all over with.
Yeah, and just so Matt knows too, I mean, we're talking about here. I've had some people come to me and ask if they could advertise on our shows. So Matt, I think maybe we'll pick 3 different sections on here and put some kind of like when you're at the movie theater beforehand, where we advertise for people during the show.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a comment, question, plea to please use us, right? Because the only way materials exchange makes money is when somebody comes on and puts a bid or an ask and makes a transaction. And you guys
Yeah,
all know.
and this whole the purpose of this is to give you information and just make you aware that there's so much more out there for you if you just come and get it. And I guarantee you, based on what Ash does, materials exchange, what we do, you'll make money using us. I guarantee you. Make or
Absolutely.
save money.
Absolutely. So, Matt, appreciate the time today. Everybody for showing up and spending your time with us. We're only as good as the people watching us and commenting with us. Love you guys, girls, people, whoever you want to associate with. We love you. So
you better stop.
Yeah,
You better,
I'm trying to be politically correct here. So everybody,
back off.
Have a great day.
See you, buddy. Thanks a lot.
Yep. Bye.